Hey everybody, what's happening? We're back after a little hiatus, but I think we came back at a really good time here for episode 54 here of All Elite Zone, AEZ Canada. So it's good to be back here, guys, and I think it's a good time to be back after a big pay-per-view this past weekend, WrestleDream, which definitely delivered. But it's nice to be joined by some of the usual characters here. Connor, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. If anyone does not know, today is my 23rd birthday. I want to thank everyone that's wished me happy birthday, including Jason and everyone else. Yeah, today's been a pretty good day.
Good. Happy birthday, Connor. It was actually my mom's birthday yesterday, and it's my birthday actually next Monday. I'm the 21st. So we're both Libras. Good stuff. Amer, how you
Yes,
doing? It's been a while. How are
doing
you?
well. Doing well. It's been a while, and glad to be back.
Good stuff. And Jason, nice to see you back, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you. And Connor, you're only a couple of months younger than I am. I just turned 23 back in July, so we're kind of close here.
Oh, awesome. No, that's great. And like I said, we're back here. We took a few weeks off to relax, regroup, and come back. Again, there's always lots of wrestling content to go over. And I think, maybe to start off with, there's some pretty good matches this past weekend. A couple of surprises and as I kind of they take these pay-per-views to reset some of the storylines. So we're kind of excited to see what happens coming off of WrestleDream that took place in Tacoma, Washington. So I think I would say it was a success. I thought it was some very entertaining wrestling, guys, maybe we can start off and just kind of look to, and we can give some your feedback overall, what you thought of some of the matches, and then we can talk about some of the highlights, lowlights, anything like that, and what we see as a possibility for the weeks ahead here. But I don't know. I guess Connor, I'll get your overall opinion. What did you think of the pay-per-view overall?
I thought it was pretty good. There was some matches I could have cared less for. Others, I thought the best match, or the matches that I was most interested in, was the triple threat in the main event. It was good to see Nikeshita finally win a title. That was a good match. And obviously, we'll get into it later. Kyle Fletcher turning on Osprey. The main event was good. I won't get into what I think of Moxley being champion just yet, but I thought pay-per-view was overall pretty good. I wish they would have had more story direction with Mariah May.
Yes.
Since she's won the title at All In, she hasn't really been put in any feuds. I mean, she's been having these one-off matches like with Willow or some of the one. She's been going against on Dynamite or whatever. Young Bucks and Private Party was a pretty good match. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good pay-per-view. But we'll get into some of the other stuff later of what we may have not liked on the show, what we thought was the best stuff.
Yeah, maybe at the end of it, we can also kind of give after we kind of go through it and give and we can grade it and see how we thought how to compare it to some of the other pay-per-views that we've seen recently. Even compared to it, what do we think about? Because there's a lot of wrestling going on between WWE, TNA, there's AEW, and again, you can get into everything else that's Japanese and Mexican, right? So there's just tons of wrestling out there. So it'd be nice to kind of we can at the end give a grade and see how we thought about this particular WrestleDream pay-per-view. But Amer, just wanted to give what did you think overall of this
I
one?
thought it was a good. I watched the most of the free part of the show, the pre-show, and I followed somebody on YouTube just to hear see what's going on with the matches. I think it was a good show for in terms of action. I watch most of these shows, and I felt like I was thinking the same thing recently with WWE Bad Blood, where okay, good show, good matches, but what I want to see out of a pay-per-view is either feud should end, or stories should end, or stories should develop, or you should turn the page and turn the chapter, and that's what I was kind of looking for here. I wish I could have seen more of that, although we did see some to AEW's credit. That's what I was looking for more, but there was a lot of action just for the sake of action. Not really my thing. I understand it is the thing for a lot of people.
Gotcha. Jason, I'll send over the same question over to you for what your opinion on the overall is on the show.
To be quite honest with you, I mean, it was a good show, but it was your typical AEW pay-per-view for me. They always have great matches throughout the pay-per-view, whether they have a story or not. And then there's always those couple of matches that didn't need to be on the show that winds up making it go way too long. Like I said, I was sitting there fighting it to make sure I got to see the main event, and I did not stay up for the media scrum. I went to bed. But I was happy with the ending match simply because Connor got an early birthday present. His favorite Marina Shafir was part of the main event, so that warmed my heart for Connor. But like I said, it was AEW always delivers on pay-per-view. A little too long most of the time for me, and a couple of matches that didn't need to be there. But overall, a good show.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think that AEW, for the most part, always delivers a good show for the most part. Again, growing up with a lot of the 90s and 2000s when there were some pretty lackluster pay-per-views with WWE. But now, if there's the pay-per-views are great, and I think AEW does a great job for that. And you know what? I don't mind necessarily, and I know what you mean about just having wrestling matches for the sake of having matches on there, but they're usually at least entertaining. I mean, it is what it is, and just having, at least if it's a match, even if, Amer, I know you're about the storylines, but sometimes you think, okay, there's a random match. But then when the match is going on, you're like, okay, this is just a great wrestling match. And I know they're all about just having great entertainment and great matches. It doesn't have to have a storyline. Throw a couple of girls together, a couple of guys together, and boom, you've got some magic, right? And I think just for entertaining the crowd. And I think that's first and foremost, too. They want to make sure that the live crowd gets entertained.
100%. You're right. If the crowd was into it, no argument.
Right. So, which I love because, again, the crowd, I think with AEW especially, the crowd really plays a big role in it. So you really got to get them in early. But at the same time, there's a couple of points that you can almost hear a pin drop in there as well. So I did notice that. But again, I thought overall it was a good show. And Jason, I know I get your point as well, where especially if you got to get up early in the morning, it's tough to sometimes stay up late to watch some of these pay-per-views, especially, when you got the 0 hour. But again, there's no shortage of action or entertainment. So really they're trying to get your money's worth. But if you look at the 0 hour, I personally didn't see Brian Cage versus Atlantis Jr. I don't know if you guys saw that. I think it was a very, very first match. So I don't know did you guys even see that one?
I did.
I actually missed that one, but
yeah,
when you say Brian Cage versus Atlantis Jr., I think you pretty much know what you're going to get, right? Yeah. So
right, and that was supposed to be a television ROH television title match.
Yeah.
It was. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one, the one I actually wanted to bring up, I was actually getting surprised, and I got to give credit to AEW. They've done this a few times now. I know they get criticism for bringing guys over, and people always say, "Oh, they can't create stars and all that kind of stuff." But again, the match was the MXM collection versus the Acclaimed, with the surprise guest of Rico in the corner of MXM. And you know what? The crowd was into it.
Yes.
They're doing something with these guys that WWE couldn't do. They tried to do, did not work. And it's almost like the same shtick, but it's working, and you crowd's into it, even though you think like that's not something that I would like or care about, but actually I was actually very entertained. And I actually, at one point, I thought, could they win this match? Because again, I thought for sure, if you look it on paper, you're like, oh, Acclaimed over for sure. But then when you started watching it and watching, I was never a Monsieur fan, but these guys actually delivered. I don't know if you guys got to see that on the 0 hour, and just was curious about your opinion on that match and on what they're doing, say with MXM, and if you actually entertained by it. Connor,
I think it's just some of the match. A lot of the stuff that they're doing, I could care less for. I tried watching their Rampage. Whatever they called it. It was on Collision Rampage, whatever they did. It was very, 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 very bad. That's something that Vince McMahon would have booked. I don't think that their gimmick has been over because their matches on Rampage and Collision, nobody gives a damn. There's a pin drop on that. Like, they basically carried the same gimmick from WWE and it's still not over. I think it's time to do something else. I mean, it's a WWE gimmick that nobody liked in WWE, and I mean, certain people may like it, and I mean, because certain people will like anything AEW does, no matter what they do. But I don't like it. I tried watching some of the stuff on Rampage and Collision, and it was just very, very dull. I thought. I think they could do much better in their tag team division instead of these two guys.
Yeah. Well, Amer, did you have you seen these guys, or did you see this one on the 0 hour?
I did see this one. And I thought that this match was entertaining. From what Connor said, I can understand where he's coming from, and I get it. It's really, you got to pick your spots with these guys. And they were in a match with, guys who they could play off of. And I think that was really the key, right? If you just put them in a random match on Collision or Rampage or whatever against some random tag team and just have it be about the action and the wrestling, it's not going to be that entertaining. But when you have these guys and everybody can kind of be goofball-y off of each other, it adds to the presentation. So it's really a matter of picking spots and making the most of those minutes. And I think that they did it in this match. I hope that they can continue with that momentum. We talked a little bit about the show, to pull the curtain back a little bit, about other teams like the Outrunners who are, have that same kind of vibe. I'd like to see MXM against them rather than just against, two job guys or just some random team. And come on, you guys, you got to play off each other. They got to be produced a little bit. I know it didn't work well in WWE because they were being produced in a certain direction and forced in a certain direction. But in AEW, if they can kind of let it happen, find the right opponents, I think it can work.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of your points there. I think with as long as AEW has been really good at creating these little vignettes, little videos, which again, to your point with the Outrunners, I think they've made the Outrunners by these clips. Yes. And that reminds me of the WWF from like the 80s and 90s when they did a lot of those little vignettes and little stories and videos that really made characters, right? Because you got to see them. So, but yeah, no, I agree with your point. And Jason, just wanted to get your opinion on this one.
Well, I'm happy for those guys. If you actually take into account, they've actually had more TV time in AEW than they had in WWE. Once Triple H took back over, LA Knight went to him and said, "This ain't me, man. Let me do my thing or get rid of me. This is not me." And so they split off LA Knight off the group, and then Maxine went with the Alpha Academy, and they just didn't get a lot of TV time after that because I guess they were not wanting people to remember what LA Knight and Maxine were both doing. And, I think Mansoor got signed to begin with just because of their deal in Saudi. Dio Madden said, he started off as a commentator on Raw for a few weeks and then went back down training, became Mace, whatever you want to call him, with Retribution, and then the MXM gimmick. So, those guys have been, given some pretty tough spots. And, if they can get over, that's great. I mean, I agree with you that the Acclaimed, I looked at that and said, the Acclaimed will take this pretty easily. But they turned it into an entertaining match. And, I giggled a little bit when Rico turned around and did the "You Look So Good to Me." I mean, the character he plays, it's a lot of, you find this a lot of times, like Gorgeous George, was, from what people say, a legit tough guy. Exotic Adrian Street, they said, was one of the toughest guys that the wrestling business has ever seen. Mm-hmm. And, Rico, he's a SWAT team member. He was on American Gladiators. I mean, this guy, that's not somebody you want to mess with. Nope. When he retired from wrestling, he went back to the police force. So, but he does that gimmick and he does it great. So, no, it was an entertaining match. And, I always want the guys and girls, no matter who they are, whether I like their gimmick or not, I know they're working hard and I'd like to see them succeed. And I think this is probably MXM's best chance to succeed. And I wish him well.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think bringing Rico back was a great manager for these guys. It adds another element, as that, like, it's kind of that flamboyancy. He's a veteran. He can get heat. So I think it's great. I think what's going to get these guys over too is, again, if you get over some of the silliness, and they showed some glimpses of some of those moves that they do as a team, which actually, if you can make some of the moves look devastating, that's what's going to get over. And that's why they did a couple of some moves. And I was like, oh, when you start getting the crowd going into that 1, 2, oh, they're also believing like, oh, that was a hard move there. Like these guys might actually win. So as long as they keep up some of the good combo moves, that's gonna really, I think, win them over with the crowd. But yeah, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens. I thought again. I know Connor, you kind of thought it was wasn't over, but I think this pay-per-view was a bright spot for them. So, like I said, we'll see if the momentum comes off of that one. So, but the next match there on the actually, like I said, there's only, I guess, two women's matches, I think, on the whole pay-per-view, and one on the 0 hour, which is Harley Cameron and Anna Jay. And I was happy to see Anna Jay get a match, and she's jobbed quite a bit for some of the people coming in. So, but I heard them there. I guess she had, and maybe you guys could remember. They said that she went her time in another organization. I guess I don't know if that was in Mexico or in Japan or where she was, and did some like more training. And so they kind of came back, and Excalibur was kind of touting how good she looked, and she had learned, maybe had improved her craft a bit. So. But she went over on this one. But I don't know if you guys, Connor, if you have any comments on this match, and on if this is finally going to give Anna Jay maybe a bit of a push.
I thought it was a pretty good match. She's definitely improved a little bit since going to Japan. I don't think she's going to get a push because you got Mercedes. She's going to get to do whatever she wants to do.
Yep.
And the women's title scene, Ryan May's not losing that title, and there's no way they're going to have a win a title. If Anna Jay does win anything, it'll be an ROH. Maybe she'll beat Red Velvet for the ROH Women's Television title. That's the only thing I can see her doing. I think we'll see her on. Well, I don't know how long Rampage will be around, but
just through the end of the year.
Yeah, maybe she'll be on Collision doing some stuff, but I don't really see her doing anything major. Unless they have her do something on ROH, that's where her limit's going to be. Because the women's, even with Mercedes signings, women still get very little TV time on AEW. Sometimes they'll get 2 matches on Dynamite. We've seen that more not regularly, but more often now. But with a lot of the top women in AEW, I don't see her. Which I think she could do more, but I think they'll have her win a few matches against people like Harley Cameron, and maybe she'll get to go for the ROH Women's Television title.
All right, Amer, any thoughts on Anna Jay?
Yes, I think she has improved. I think Connor's analysis of the way that the women's division is going is all right. I think she deserves better, but she's probably going to end up being, fodder for Mariah May and Mercedes, at least for the time being. That's how I see it. I don't really see her being sent, quote unquote, sent down to ROH probably because of her relationship with Jack Perry. That's just how I kind of see it. So I think her lot is going to be, okay, make these other ladies look good, which is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Jason?
I was glad to see her back. I like Anna Jay. I kind of feel like with her, especially with the push Jack Perry is getting now, the same way I do with Naomi. I really think WWE missed the boat on that, bringing her back. I really thought they should have brought her back as Trinity Fatu as part of the bloodline and got rid of the glow gimmick and went further that way. And Anna Jay could really get a push by being associated with the Elite and Jack Perry to put her in the main event light to be seen that way if she's hanging around those type of people. And, it gets some good heat on screen as well.
Yeah. You know what? I agree with you. You know what? I think that would be, why not put them together? Why not give it a shot? Yeah. No, I think I would go over because it is a part of bringing in reality into it. Right. So why not? But I guess the one match that I don't remember seeing on the 0 hour. And this is kind of the points that you guys kind of brought up, especially Amer, about a match for the sake of having a match, which was the random 8-man tag match, which had, Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly with the Outrunners taking on the Premier Athletes and Dark Order. Again, I see. It's almost, I get your point there. It's like, how can we get as many guys on here as possible? Just like showcase as many guys and let's just throw them together. just for the sake of entertainment, right? That is just an entertainment match. Comedy spots, double team spots, you know, got to just kind of get people excited about it. Just a pure entertainment match. And again, the runners and the cooperation win with that. So I don't know. Did you guys see that one? I totally missed that one.
It was on in the background while I was doing something else.
Yes. Yeah. Me too. Exactly. I'm like, okay, like I know Orange Cassidy's not losing. Okay, I get it. They got to fill some time.
Oh yeah.
Because it's either that or Renee and RJ City and Jeff Jarrett talking. So.
Well, you know, the conglomeration got put in that match because FTR being in North Carolina with all the devastation they suffered and helping out down there. So, you know, thoughts and prayers out to the people in North Carolina and FTR and Adam Copeland helping out down there as well. But that's where the conglomeration came in for that match.
Oh, gotcha. Well, actually, if you were to look at it as the first match as the pay-per-view started, which I thought was a bit of a banger, was Jay White and Adam Page. Again, I think bringing it was a great match. It was great to see Jay White back. I loved the end move. That just solidified why Jay White is who he is and like why he's getting a push. And I think from then on, like that was an amazing move. I was a little worried. I did really want Jay White to win. I was worried that, you know, because they're really done a big push with Hangman. But I know he's in Washington and he was even fighting against Swerve, but he was also the hated man in Tacoma and Washington there. So again, Jay White coming out with that win, a great move from the buckshot lariat right into the kill switch. Was it the kill switch? Is that what he calls it? Or the switchblade?
Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. I thought that was a great match to start off with. And were you guys surprised at all that the Jay White got the victory? Connor?
Yeah, I was. The previous pay-per-view, I believe, was All Out. Swerve and Hangman had their third match. Hangman won that match, so it kind of really boosted Hangman up a lot. That's when we haven't seen Swerve in a while. So I feel like they were going to build up Hangman to maybe go for the world title. And then they had him lose at WrestleDream, which was unexpected. But AEW has a lot of predictability in their matches. That it was kind of refreshing to see an upset for once. Jay White just came back, so you didn't want to have him lose his first match. Well, his first big match back. But it looks like tomorrow on Dynamite they're having Jay White and Christian Cage. That was Jay White's feud before he got injured. So I'm curious to see what they do with that. I think they could have just done Jay White and Christian Cage on the pay-per-view.
Yes.
Because Hangman was I won't say. Well, I will say red hot. At least in AEW he was. His heel character and his theme has been very, very edgier than the Hangman we're used to seeing, like the cowboy normal stuff. I think they can make a world champion out of this current Hangman. And I was surprised they had him lose, but I also didn't think Jay White needed to lose either. But it was a nice upset, and it's great to have Jay White back.
Yeah, absolutely. Amer, what do you think?
Yeah, I looked at this and I said, man, what are you going to do? You can't, like, neither of these guys should lose this. I like the Jay White one. I don't know what they're going to do with it or where it's going to go. I mean, logical booking would mean that, you know, Adam Page will interfere in this match between Jay White and Christian. But I was thinking exactly that. When I saw that Jay White was against Christian tomorrow, I'm like, why didn't you do that at the pay-per-view? That would have made a lot more sense. Right? You could have had a much more sensible ending. And even if Jay White lost because of interference from Nick Wayne or whatever, Nick Wayne's from that area. I mean, you could have done something there. I'm not a big believer in the idea that, you know, a guy losing one match kills his momentum. I know that's what, you know, the IWC will tell you, oh, well, he lost, so he's worthless now, right? Yeah, like, you know, Hulk Hogan was totally useless after he lost the belt, right? Whatever. But I don't know. It just seems weird for Adam Page to lose at this point. And this is one where we need to see where the story is going to go, because Adam Page has a story, right? I'll grant that there's something there, and this could be a misstep unless they really kind of see it through. That's my opinion. He's got to do something with this loss and, you know, get something out of it.
Jason, what's your take?
My portion of the program to piss everybody off.
Go for it.
Take how Connor feels about Marina Shafir and quadruple that. That's the way I feel about Adam Page. I cannot stand Adam Page.
Wow. Okay.
Logan Paul does the buckshot lariat better than Adam Page. If you don't believe me, just watch the highlights. Adam Page, in my opinion, is awful. I cannot stand him. I think they've dropped the ball on Jay White since he got there, and I was glad to see him get the win and dickhead Page have to lay down for once.
Yeah, you know what? I think that they wanted to give, again, when we with Swerve being out, the next best thing to give Washington is to get a loss from Adam Page, right? So if you listen to that pop, the crowd went nuts. So I think that was one of those things. It made sense to like, okay, let's give the crowd what they want. And at the same time, we can just kind of elevate and get Jay White back on, because again, you can't have him coming back and then losing again. Like that would completely kill, and people go bananas for it. I think I don't think this loss really hurt Hangman that much. There's just too much going on with him, but gave the crowd what they want, a loss, and it was a surprise. I think that's part of what people loved about it, was it felt a bit of a surprise. So I was good to see that. And I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Jay White from there. So on to the next one. I know Connor, you might have some comments on Mariah May versus Willow Nightingale, and it was a good match. It was a pretty entertaining match, and I think they love Willow. I mean, AEW, I guess Tony Khan loves Willow. He just gives Willow like every opportunity possible. But she's a fan favorite, so I get it. So this one, not a surprise for me that Mariah May defeated Nightingale to retain the women's championship. So, but Connor, I'll take it over to you. I know you might have some thoughts on the lack of storytelling per se when it comes to Mariah so far.
Yeah, so Mariah May won the title at All In 2024, coming off a very good Tony Storm run. I think she's had one of the best women's title runs in AEW history, and she set the bar pretty high. It looks like it's a combination of things. It's not just on Mariah May, because she doesn't book the show. She doesn't get to pick where spot she's in. But she definitely has not been able to continue the momentum that after that Tony story, she hasn't been able to bounce back and do her own thing. But it's not entirely her fault, because she doesn't get to book where she's placed out in the show. She's not the booker. But since she's won it, we've seen some one-off matches with, I believe, Yuka Sakazaki, Willow, and there's one other person on Dynamite. It's just been one-off matches, not really anything. Like, she hasn't had one story since winning the title. The Willow thing was very last minute. They had a fatal four-way on Dynamite, and whoever won that went against Mariah May on the pay-per-view. I think the plan was to do Britt Baker, but Britt Baker got sick or whatever. I saw on TikTok that she was pretty sick. So I guess they pivoted from that. But when they started the Britt Baker stuff, they only had 2 weeks before the pay-per-view. So even with Britt Baker, they wasn't going to have much time to build on that either. This did feel like a match just to have a women's match on the pay-per-view. I think Mariah could be doing a lot more as women's champion. And the post-media scrum, she got asked one question, which I think I could have come up with some questions, but her run as champion has not been good at all. And, I mean, matches aren't everything, especially to what Tony Storm did. She raised the bar a lot, and Mariah hasn't been able to bounce back on her own, because the Tony story is done, or is for right now. But I think they need to do a lot more with Mariah May, because she is very good and she has a good character, but just having these matches isn't really doing anything. So I think they could definitely do more with her.
Gotcha. Amer, what do you think?
What I think it was going to be Willow all the way, and I think she was going to beat Britt, and then they did what they did. It definitely seems to me that they're just waiting for Tony Storm to come back. and they're just kind of in a holding pattern. I was actually very, very surprised because Mercedes had a segment on 0 Hour. Why was Mercedes not on this show? That was really, really, really surprising to me. Obviously, she's calling her own shots. I think everybody knows that. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
I said, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, all right?
Hey, I'm not, but I'm just really, really surprised, right? I mean, like, Tony, I want a match. Like, I mean, that's all it would have taken, right? But whatever, it is what it is. Getting back to the point, good match. Glad Willow got an opportunity. Like, she's obviously maximizing her minutes and taking whatever opportunity she can. Good on her. We'll see what happens going forward. It seems like they're setting up Mercedes against Chris Statlander. Why can't we have a Mariah May versus Chris Statlander match tomorrow? Wouldn't that be great? I think that'd be great. But I don't book the matches. So,
Jason, your thoughts?
Well, I like Mariah May a whole lot. And, the bad booking of the women's division, Chris Statlander is a prime example because they done flip-flopped her again.
Yeah.
And, I know everybody likes Willow, but, you could have picked somebody else for that spot. It hasn't been 3 months since she beat Willow in the finals of the Owen tournament. So I thought they could have picked somebody better for that spot. However,
Amy Hayter's right there.
Yeah. And maybe I'm giving them too much credit for, everybody's talking about Tony coming back. Given the fact that, the way things went down with Tony Storm, the turn after the Owen win, beating her for the title, and she continues to use Storm Zero as a finish. I think they're just keeping her on TV and on pay-per-view until Tony comes back, and then they finish that story, whether Tony takes the belt back or Mariah can get a convincing victory over Tony Storm, and then they move off of that. But I think they're just keeping her busy until Tony comes back to finish that story off.
Where is Tony? Is she just taking a break?
She's in Mexico. She's in other countries doing massive. She's had one in Mexico, I think, right? I think
like that, and she was just named the number one woman in PWI. So, that gives more fuel to the fire because Tony addresses stuff like that where WWE does not.
Can I just say, probably one of the best thing about a Mariah May match right now is Nigel on commentary. I love Nigel. I don't know about you guys. I find him
he's
one of
great.
the best commentators. I find him hilarious. I love his stuff. I think he's just getting better. I like him better now than what he was doing. When he was like in NXT or at WWE. I love him. I find him hilarious, and I just love when he just goes so overboard, especially when it comes to Christian Cage and Mariah May. I love that. So, but.
Well, you got to figure when he was in WWE, Vince was still running stuff, so he's got a whole lot more freedom now than he had there. So,
yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet. No, so I'm excited to see. I know we've talked about this in the past, and that there is a bit I can see. I mean, there is a lack of direction when it comes to it. There's so many good women that just don't get a chance. They start and they stop. Like you see like a Nyla Rose all of a sudden will get 3 weeks in a row on TV. And you're like, okay, or is she going there? Nope, gone. And then it's all starting.
Speaking of which, when's the last time we actually saw Athena on TV?
We haven't.
I mean, I love Athena. I liked her when she was Ember Moon in WWE.
Yeah, but of course, everybody wants to talk about WWE and certain racial thing, whatever.
I think.
Well, yeah, but she's been over here for what, 2.5 years now.
She signed it.
It's been a while. But by the way, I was wrong. Tony Storm is in IWTP right now doing a bunch of stuff. Or started. So she's over in Japan for a while. I guess that's the
And speaking of Stardom, we still got Mariah May's tag team partner they're still trying to tell a story with on which way she's going to fall, whether she's going to stick with Mariah or side with Tony Storm when Tony comes back. So there's still that to go as well.
Yeah. Mina and Tony are teaming in Stardom right now, interestingly enough.
So kind of take us to the next match if we move along here. We got Jack Perry, which is and he had an open challenge, I believe, and Shibata answered the call. Which again, entertaining match. I don't know about you guys. I'm getting a little tired of the whole chops, the continuous chop after chop after chop after chop. It just feels like the guys would just keep going with it and going with it. I know the sound and it sounds devastating, and when you hear the chop live and getting the crowd into it, but I don't know about you guys. I'm just getting a little tired of the chop. I just think it's used too much, too often, almost for half the matches that are going on with some of these guys. Kind of drives me nuts. But again, entertaining match. Jack Perry. It kind of won in a kind of a weird finish there. Which was interesting. But I guess this kind of led off to we had Garcia come in, I guess, at the end of the match, which kind of set up the whole thing. But before we kind of get on to that next segment that leads into us that brought back another familiar face. Connor, any thoughts on this match? And were you surprised at all with Perry retaining the title?
No. I saw him retaining from a mile away. His title run has been in the same boat as Mariah. He hasn't had not one. Maybe Darby you can have as a story, but after All In, they were done with that. He really hasn't. I mean, he's had matches against Christopher Daniels, Suzuki, Shibata, Marco Stunt. I mean, matches have just been. It's not really been. He's in the same boat as Mariah May. They haven't really been given a story or really anything to put their teeth in. Like, they just been given matches just for having a match, which Christian Cage did a lot of work to, I think, to get that title back to what it used to be. And now it seems that it's went right back to where it was before Christian Cage won it, which is sad because the TNT title I thought was one of the AEW's most prestigious titles. And Cody and Brody had a lot of classic matches. Samoa Joe had a lot of good ones, Darby. And now it's kind of went back to the way before Christian Cage won it. I mean, the match was all right. The finish was a little, I don't know what kind of finish they was going for. But it was an all right match. And I can see with the chopping. I remember it was Ishii and Jericho. And like I timed it. They were chopping each other for 6 minutes. And the match was 15 minutes, so about half the match was just chopping. So I don't have anything against chopping, but if that's what you're going to do the majority of the match, that can get kind of dull pretty quick. Just chop, like they do it a lot in AEW. Like Shibata does it, but there's a lot of different people that do it. Suzuki, whenever they bring him in. But yeah, I thought the match was what it was. Yeah, that's pretty much my take on that.
Yeah, you know what? You said 6 minutes. It felt like it was 35 minutes with that match. Jericho.
It felt like
it's a bit long. I mean, I get it. Their chest get destroyed. Like Jericho's chest was destroyed after that one. Amer, what were your thoughts on this? And what they're doing also with Jack Perry?
I think it was fairly predictable. I think that Jack Perry, to me, this is just my read of it. Jack Perry, because of the position he's in the company with the friends that he has, is just like, what do you want to do, Jack? You want to do this? Okay, great. Go out and do it. I mean, that is reality, and that happens everywhere, not just in AEW. But what Connor said, hits home with me. Kristen tried to elevate this title and actually make it mean something. And now, just like most AEW titles, it's just a thing, right? It's just kind of out there. Good match, no problem with that. Yeah, I was sick of the chops 3 years ago. But you know what? It is what it is, and this is what these guys wanted to do, and this is the match that they put on. And it was fine. I am glad that it led into what it led into, which we're going to talk about. So, yeah.
Sure. Jason, your thoughts?
It was a title match. I've been very vocal. I do not care for the TNT or TBS title. Not because I don't think the championships are needed. They're just glorified TV titles, and I wish they would call them as such. Because of the CM Punk stuff, the company, Tony Khan and the Young Bucks are determined to get Jack Perry over. And, Tony's very fond of his Japanese wrestlers he's brought in. He don't want to make them look bad. So the finish was kind of a cop out to keep Perry the title on Perry and Shibata to look, not to look bad. And
Mhm.
it's not only the chops I'm tired of, but it's the forearm elbows that they want to sit there and go back and forth with for 2 to 3, 4 minutes in a match. And it's just like, come on, guys, let's do something else. I mean, even a lot of the women will do it as well. It's not just the men. If you
Mhm.
watch some of the women's matches, they're doing it too. And it's just, there's so much stuff that goes on like that. You talk about the chops. You can take those matches and have 2 or 3 matches that stuff happens back to back to back. And I use those the same way I use the tables or the being outside the ring for 2 minutes. When you do it every damn match on the show, you just get tired of it. It's not special anymore. But it was a good filler match. Title defense. Perry kept the title on Perry. Shibata didn't look bad.
You know what? It'd be. I think a lot of guys would be, or a lot of girls would also be screwed if you said, okay, no chops, no elbow strikes, and no super kicks.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what
do I
else
do?
can
I don't know what to do.
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
When else? How am I gonna? I need
Pay-per-view.
to slap my thighs more. I don't know what to do if I
I
without
know.
those moves.
It's like some pay-per-views where every match has a ref bump, like do you not know how else to end a match? Like seriously.
Speaking of refs, I know we'll get to it in a little bit, but I thought the ref in the main event did a good job. I really did. I'm critical of AEW refs a lot of times, especially Aubrey Ed, but I forgot who refereed the Mox Danielson match, but he did a good job.
Was he ball headed?
Well, that just kind of will lead into the ending of this match. Which,
I'm gonna let y'all talk about this for a second. I need more coffee for this one.
Go ahead.
No problem. We kind of led into this. It was a bit of a surprise. We had Daniel Garcia come down. I guess it was kind of to help Shibata, and he gets nailed by Jack Perry, and lo and behold, crowd goes nuts. MJF comes down to the ring. He's got some unfinished business with Daniel Garcia. He rolls up the sleeves, undoes the shirt. We think he's going to be a bit of an ass kicking here on Daniel Garcia. Boom! Lo and behold, another surprise. The return of Adam Cole, which was actually kind of nice to see. Big pop. I was kind of wondering what they did. Because they kind of did a soft ending to this feud, but that's when they were still pushing MJF as the face. So that kind of, he did a bit of a move. I guess that was the kind of tied us over. I don't think Adam Cole was cleared to wrestle at that point, but they needed to do something. But now they've brought it back. Now it looks like a bit of a face turn for Adam Cole from what I can see, because MJF has gone back to his heelish villainous ways. So it'd be interesting. It was, like I said, big papa came down. With this, are we going to see a run, a singles run by Adam Cole? Or are we going to see him getting hooked up with anybody? Is it Kingdom still? Is he going to be part of that, or what they're going to do? So it was a nice surprise. Nice to see that they're going to, looks like, potentially bring that back, that feud, or at least finish it, which they never got to do originally. But Connor, what did you think? Were you surprised? And what do you think they're going to go? Where do you think they're going to go with this?
I was excited for Adam Cole to come back, but I was hoping they would not do this feud again, because this feud's just, I don't know how they plan on doing this now, because before Adam Cole turned on MJF at World's End, when Disputed Kingdom was a thing, MJF was the face, and now the roles are reversed, so I don't know how they're supposed to. I don't know, man. Like, they haven't had the Undisputed Kingdom on. I mean, at least Roderick Strong and Matt Taven and Mike Bennett are on TV. Wardlow's not on TV ever. Now Adam Cole's back. I don't know how they plan on, or not unless they're just going to ignore the past, which I don't see how you can do that when. I don't know. It's a. I wish they would have just done something different, not continued it, because now they reversed the roles, and I don't care to see it anymore, to be honest. They've kind of drug it out as, I mean, even though Adam Cole was injured, I think they could have pivoted and not even have started that, because they really started something at World's End that they really couldn't deliver on. So then it led to them just dragging it on and dragging it on and dragging it on and dragging it on. Because he got injured at Grand Slam 2023 last year, I think, when he was on that ramp. So they could have just called an audible into something different, but they instead went with the devil story, and they did that. They drug that out, and then they finally revealed Adam Cole as the devil. I don't know. I personally wish they was just going their separate ways, do something different. But I'm curious to see how they try to explain everything that's happened.
Yeah, just before I hand it over to Amer, what if kind of you brought that, you kind of intrigued me a little bit there, Connor. And what I was thinking now with this heel turn, what if you got Wardlow comes back and you kind of think, remember there was some weirdness that was going on and the way you're being treated by Adam Cole, that could you see if now with MJF as a real villain and having Wardlow come in almost like he's supposed to be with Adam Cole, boom, heel turn, and he joins back up with MJF as his kind of enforcer. I mean, is that a possibility? And actually, would people be more excited to see that again as opposed to what they were doing with them? So maybe Amer, I guess, over the thoughts. And what do you think? Is that even a possibility? Do you think that they could do something like that?
It's a definite possibility if somebody was interested enough to actually write that story and see it through. I think it would be great. I think it would actually make sense of the whole thing. I see a problem in that I personally do not see Adam Cole as a believable superstar. I just don't. I think, what do you figure? He's maybe 170 pounds at best right now. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, why am I? And the biggest thing, the overriding thing, and everything is, why should I care? What can he do to make me care again? I don't see it yet. It's not that it's impossible. What you suggested might make me care, right? If Wardlow got involved, whatnot. I don't see Wardlow coming back. I think that he's kind of out of the picture, and he's not one of Tony's favorite toys at this point. That would be good. That would put some fire into it, I suppose. But I really see this whole escapade because, Adam Cole is scheduled to appear tomorrow night. We'll see what he does. But like so many things, I see this just as another example of, Tony Khan has gone to Home Depot and picked up some very, very nice supplies, but doesn't have the general contractor, doesn't bother. Like, why do I need an electrician? Why do I need a painter? Why do I need a plumber? Why do I need a carpenter? I got all this nice stuff. See, look at this. This is really, really nice. Can we build a house now? Why do we need a house? Look at this really nice. Yeah, I just see this as just some kind of random thing. Let's get Adam Cole back. Yay! And we'll see where it goes. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. Haven't been wrong yet. So.
Jason, now you have your cup of coffee and your cigarette. What do you think?
Oh, God. Please make it make sense.
Yeah.
That's
it.
I'm going to go down history road here real quick with Adam Cole. The Undisputed Era was the hottest thing NXT had for a long time. They got a lot of those guys over. The War Games with Pat McAfee and his crew, with Pete Dunne and the other ones that was in there. Then Adam Cole comes over to AEW. They bring in Red Dragon. The only thing that was missing was Roddy. He was still there. Everybody's excited for the possibility of the Undisputed Era versus the Elite. They kind of combine. And then Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole both are hurt. And they still do the turn angle with the Young Bucks, knowing they can't pay it off. I rolled my eyes then.
Knowing they can't pay it off. That's it.
And, nobody knew how bad, Adam was hurt. And I'm certain they didn't expect Kyle to be gone 2 years with his injuries. But, you don't do that till you've got the clear on the guys to do it. So we kind of got screwed out of that with that angle. It just did not go anywhere. And Adam Cole's been hurt, the majority of the time he's been there. And the best thing that they did with Wardlow, he was hot as hell when he squashed MJF, but then they didn't do anything with him. They should have strapped, if they were going to do that, then they should have strapped the rocket to him right then and there, because he didn't just beat MJF, he squashed him.
Mm-hmm.
And so can I see Wardlow coming back with MJF? Yeah, I can absolutely see him just walking out there with no explanation, because that's what they've done with Adam Cole the whole time, and Wardlow pretty much too. But the thing, like I said, the thing is, they only brought Adam Cole out at World's End, still hurt, just to let him take a brain buster from MJF and, for what it seemed like, they were washing their hands of the feud. All right. He dropped him on his head for turning on him. It's done. It's over with. But now you bring Adam Cole back as the babyface and MJF running from the guy who stabbed him in the back. You know, heel or babyface, either one, you get stabbed in the back, you're ready to go fight somebody, not run from them. And I mean, I hope Adam Cole can actually go this time and we actually see what he can bring to AEW programming as far as a full-time superstar, opposed to, you know, wrestling for a month and breaking something. But, you know, it just makes absolutely no sense. And it's the part of AEW that takes so much criticism from the outside world looking in, because you don't have to like WWE storylines, and a lot of them I don't, but at least they try their best to tie stuff in, opposed to just throwing shit against the wall and see if it sticks. And that's right. All this is.
It's dad jokes. WWE, a great analogy somebody told me, WWE is dad jokes. You may not like them, you groan, you chuckle at the odd one of them, but at least you can make sense of it, right? Like, okay, I get what they're trying to do, I just don't like it. But here it's just like, what? What am I supposed to get out of this? And it's sad because there is so much potential there.
Totally. All really good points, you know, that you guys are making. And on to the next match, which I think I think it's going to be up there for one of the options for match of the year in my books anyways, and a lot of people's opinions as well, which was the International Championship match with Ospreay defending against Ricochet and Takeshita, which this is the reason why they brought Ricochet in. Yes. And again, this is the kind of match, this is where he's supposed to be. This is the type of match he's supposed to have with these type of guys. And WWE, he just could not do it. And to me, they wasted Ricochet. I didn't like his character there, or they relied to try and make him too much of a character. But he's a wrestler. He speaks with his moves. He speaks with his in-ring ability. He's just one of those guys. And that was great. They put this match together, very complimentary. I was actually a little surprised that Takeshita did take it, but I like the way he did take it. You know, that's that hooker by crook, and he definitely got it by crook. And then they brought in the heel turn, or the best friend turn of Kyle Fletcher. Yes. Which I love. They came in to do that, so they put the belt on Takeshita. But overall, great match. I don't know. Maybe this is going to now. Maybe this is the stepping stone. This is now. Ospreay is going to move on, and he's going to move up into the title, you know, the heavyweight title, you know, feud potentially with Mox. Maybe that's the next way that he's going to go. But he's kind of moving himself up through the belts and moving up to the top again. But I don't know, great match. Highlight for me. This was probably this is the highlight from the pay-per-view, and for me, probably going to be top 5 matches of the year. But Connor, your thoughts on this one?
This was
any surprises? Are you surprised at all?
As I said in the beginning, this is one of the matches I was looking forward to the most, and it did deliver, I thought. I thought Ospreay was probably going to retain, and then something after the match was going to happen, but it was time that Takeshita won the international title. That title just fits him. International, that fits him. His first title defense is actually going to be at Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, Scott D'Amore's new promotion, against Josh Alexander. Yeah. That's something that Pac did with the title. He took it to different countries and would defend it. It's called the international title, so it's fit to go international some a little bit. So,
if I had time, I'd go.
Yeah, I was wanting to cover that, but I couldn't get that to go through. But yeah, he's defending that there for Maple Leaf. But I thought the match was very, very good. I'm assuming after this, Ospreay and Fletcher and all them is going to feud. I'm curious to see where Ricochet goes from here now. I mean, he could go for the international title again against Takeshita. If not, I'm curious to see what they do with Ricochet, because the Ospreay stuff is kind of done for now since they've done that with Fletcher. But as I said again, they could have Takeshita go Takeshita and Ricochet for the title. But Ricochet, I thought he hasn't had a match like that in a while. Well, not in a while. He had a match against Ospreay on Dynamite. He's been doing a lot of the stuff that he would do in similar in Lucha Underground. Like this is the normal stuff that Ricochet would normally do. I feel like in the last few months, this WWE run, he actually did pretty decent. I can't remember which show it was. I think it was before WrestleMania. It was Ricochet and JD McDuggan. That was a really, really, really good match. If anyone hasn't seen that match, I definitely recommend watching it. Like that was probably the best match of that. I won't say the best match in Ricochet's WWE run, but it showed some promise that maybe they were going to do more with him. But I felt like if Triple H was in charge of WWE years before, Ricochet probably would have gotten used better than the way Vince booked him, because NXT Ricochet was basically how he was in AEW, like match quality wise and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought this match was a very good match. This was definitely one for me personally. This was the best match on the card. I really liked this match, but I'm curious to see where all three guys go from after this match.
Yeah, Amer.
Yeah, definitely it was the best match on the card. Like I wasn't watching it, but I was kind of following it along. And everybody's like, "Oh, they did the thing." Like, what thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the thing. I get it. So it to me, it kind of struck me as one of those matches where you're like, "Oh, holy crap, Takeshita win? Seriously?" But then after you think from it, yeah, no, wait, that makes sense. What I would like to see, because I think this would make sense, is have Ospreay and Ricochet bond with this, right? Lance Archer just got traded to the Callis family, right? How about Ospreay and Ricochet against Kyle Fletcher and Archer, right? You've got lots of possibilities there. You don't have to get right back into, okay, Ricochet's got to be with some whatever. I think that would be the sensible thing to do. I personally, the Dynamite match, Ospreay and Ricochet, I thought that was underwhelming. That was my take from it. I'm like, okay, like that was basically their match from years ago, right? Mm-hmm. A lighter version of it. Frankly, that's what I came away with it thinking. So I would like to see something like that. Let these guys do some character work. You've got lots of interchangeable parts that can kind of move around. I'd like to see them move in that direction and then build up something for, you can do Ricochet against Takeshita at some point. I think they're setting up Takeshita and Okada at some point, right? There are lots of ways to go, but it can be a slow burn. I would really like to see it taken in that direction. Hopefully Don Callis can maybe use some of his experience and intelligence to make that happen. That's what I'd like to see.
Right. Jason?
This one actually went kind of the way I expected it to. I said from the get-go when Ricochet left and came here that he fit much better in AEW than he ever did in WWE.
Yeah, no question.
If you go back, Braun Strowman kind of got in a lot of trouble because he said it out loud, calling them flippy floppers and flippy flippers. And, he got some heat backstage for that. And they made him go out and lay down for Ricochet that following Monday on Raw. But, you stop and think about it. That's a Vince McMahon mindset on the smaller guys. And a lot of the bigger guys there probably felt that way. And you take out the stars of NXT, there was not a whole lot of guys that could go Ricochet style in the WWE. I just thought he made the right move by coming over. Leading up to this match, between the loss of the tag team title match and then Kyle Fletcher coming out and then, just walking off, you saw the turn coming. And I really did see the belt going on Takeshita because, like Amber was saying, you can do some tag team matches now with Ricochet and Will Ospreay taking on Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. And then, once that's done, you can move them away, whether Ricochet goes after the international title or whether maybe he starts a feud with Jack Perry for the TNT title, however he wants to go. And then you kind of elevate Ospreay up to the world title finally where he needs to go. But very entertaining match. Definitely by far the best match on the card. And then it did have a story for anybody that always gripes. They say AEW has no stories. This one delivered match wise, and it also had a story behind it.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, just for time's sake, we're coming up to the hour here. on the podcast. And again, I just will kind of go through. There was Hologram versus Beast Mortis, 2 out of 3 falls match. It was actually a pretty good match. Hologram, they're really pumping Hologram. They seem to love this guy.
He's Tony's avatar.
That's Tony's alter ego, man.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Right. Again, decent match. We'll kind of maybe just skip over that one. If you guys want to quickly, we can talk about Darby and Brody King. That was a long time rivalry coming through. Some really good spots. We're not surprised at some of these brutal spots.
That one had the handshake at the end. He shook Darby's hand at the end of that match.
Yeah, decent match. We knew it was in spots. I guess one of the noticeable things is Brody King didn't come out to the House of Black theme. He had a different theme apparently. That's what we're saying.
I did not notice that.
Yeah. So, but again, I guess there's some big ones. With the coffin drop while Brody King fell onto the steps. Right. I think that was a big one. Kind of bringing this longtime rivalry to a bit of a close, I believe. So, but if you guys want to quickly just kind of say, do you saw this match? You liked about it, and were you surprised that Darby again came out with the win? Connor?
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good match. Thought Darby would win. It was a good match.
Okay. Hamer.
It was fine. It did what it needed to. It accomplished what it needed to accomplish, I think. Again, I want to see where this goes. I fear that this was just to give Darby, oh wow, this is so cool spot, in his hometown area, rather than making a story. But with what happened at the end of the show, I guess it remains to be seen. I hope they really do make something out of it.
All right, Jason.
Yeah, it gave Darby a win in his home state, and the handshake at the end. It might be leading to something more because of what happened at the very end of the show. So we'll see.
Gotcha. I also thought it was I'm a big fan of the handshake at the end. That's something. I know sometimes you're not supposed to with the heel and baby faces, and they do it, but I don't mind when it's a quality match and they do the handshake. So yeah, you're right. We'll see what happens there. Young Bucks and Private Party. Some good spots. I was a little surprised. I guess this was a bit of a throwback to some of the rivalries. So I was kind of nice to see a bit of a change, to see Private Party back on there, getting a bit of spot on the pay-per-view. But really no surprise that, the Young Bucks came through again. I'm getting a little tired of the Bucks, actually. I'd love to see them get dethroned. But Connor, quickly, I'll shoot it over to you to, get your thoughts on this. And were you at all surprised that the Bucks won again?
No, I knew they was going to win. It was a good match. I thought a lot of people was complaining Private Party didn't win, but that didn't really building them up at all for the past
5 years.
Yeah, like I would say in 2019 and 2020 that was their best years in AEW. Then after that,
you can say that for anybody in AEW. Sorry.
I think in 2019 and 2020 that was their best years, and then 2021. They just fizzled out. They didn't really do nothing with them. Mark Quinn got injured, and Mark Quinn would come back. Isaiah Cassidy got injured, and then I knew they wasn't going to win because they haven't really been building them at all. You can look at their win-loss record. They have more losses than wins. But I think they could be good tag team champions in the future. I really like Private Party. They're a very unique group, a unique type of character. It was an all right match, and that's my take on that.
Yeah. Amer?
Yeah, it was fine for what it was. I don't think the ending was in doubt. Not to put it down in any way, but it just reminds me of how somebody told me at one point, look, almost every AEW TV match, and this is not TV obviously, is just an extended squash match. Like who's going to win. But it's just like, okay, we got to just drag it out a little bit. But can't argue with the work, can't argue with any of that. So it did what it needed to do.
Jason, any surprises for you?
No, just piggyback off what Connor was saying, because apparently he watched my AEZ Daily video today. They really hadn't done anything with with Private Party to put
I
them.
didn't see that from you.
Oh, sure. They haven't done anything with Private Party in the past 5 years or even in the past year to make them believable tag team champions. I'm not the biggest fan of the Young Bucks, but that was the right move to keep the titles on them for now. Now, if you want to put Private Party into that conversation for the tag titles, continue to let them look like you let them look like the pay-per-view. Don't go out there and job them out. Don't go out there and let them have bad matches. Let them go out there and do what they showed you they can do and build them up, and then you can put the titles on them. But it was the right move to keep the titles on the Bucks.
And to kind of, I don't know if we really need to talk about Mark Briscoe and Jericho. I don't know if you guys had much interest in that one. Big surprise. For the most part, I just feel like the Ring of Honor titles are becoming very useless, and they don't mean what they meant, in my opinion, anyways. But again, not a big surprise that some interference and back and forth. You can have the conglomerate jump in, and there's some spots. Apparently some of the feedback saying that this is actually one of Jericho's better matches as of recently. But not surprising that Briscoe beat Jericho for the win. And if that takes us to the main event, and Jason, to your point that you mentioned at the beginning here, just on Bleacher Report, they're saying the main event started roughly at 11:20 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. So the crowd was showing signs of fatigue.
Yes, I was.
Yes, right.
So it was 8:20, but 6 hours. Like that's
So I mean, at least for you guys on, if you guys are on Central Time, it's not so bad. But us on the East Coast here at Eastern Standard, finishing a pay-per-view at midnight gets a bit tough. But big match. I think that everyone had a feeling that this was going to be Danielson's last match, especially being in his home state of finishing his full-time in wrestling career, air quotes. At least finishing up his home state of Washington. And he obviously, he probably picked, and, maybe this has got to be a part of the decision on maybe him, if he wanted to drop the title to Mox, if he had any feedback in there. Now, again, some all the stuff that happened at the end. But overall, Connor, how did you like the match? Any surprises, especially the way it finished? And were you surprised at all with Mox taking the title?
I kind of figured Danielson was probably going to lose. I was saying this months back that Danielson would win it all in, have a short title run, and lose it in his home state of Washington at WrestleDream. I seen it coming. I'm glad that Danielson got his name. Like, he's a part of the AEW title history. I knew it was going to happen. I thought the match was pretty good. I'm not thrilled about another Moxley title run. We've talked about this before. For me, at least, for a year or so, Moxley has been kind of stale, doing the same stuff over and over and over and over. Like Moxley and Orange Cassidy always win. Like you never see them lose. Which I was really hoping to see Darby win the title, because now Moxley's beaten Darby 3 or 4 times in a row. I like Moxley, but for me, the characters are stale, the same stuff. And it's not because Marina Shafir was out there. I could have cared less if she was out there or if she wasn't. But I thought the match was good. I'm not really excited about Moxley as champion, but I thought this was probably what Danielson wanted, to lose against Moxley and to build whatever they're going to do with Moxley and their group. We did see Wheeler Yuta turn on Danielson. I've seen that coming. But now this is no longer a WWE faction group, because Wheeler Yuta is in the group now. So I'm curious to see where they go from this group. And it was weird that when Moxley won, they put the title in like a bag, like they just robbed the place. I don't know if anyone caught that, where they just put the belt in this bag like that, like they just robbed the place. They beat up Darby. Orange Cassidy came out. I think Orange Cassidy will probably go against Moxley at Full Gear. I'm intrigued at what they do with this story. Again, I'm not thrilled about Moxley being the champion, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next coming weeks.
Great. Yeah, I agree. Amer, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Danielson basically has creative control here, right? I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. Much like how Sting was kind of basically able to dictate the way that he went out, and Tony said, "Yeah, sure, whatever you want," and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that necessarily. I don't know. I wasn't. I just saw over and over again. Well, he's retiring from full time, and something about that just really bothers me. Maybe it's just me. Match was fine. I think normally on a WWE pay-per-view, and I think I'm going to say it a little bit for this pay-per-view as well, that ending was kind of an overbooked mess. That's what I feel. I'm mitigating that thought based on what's going to come out of it. Like, they have to deliver something really meaningful based on what they did. So it's too early to judge, and I'm not going to prejudge that at this point. We have to. This is what I've said this a lot. This is the real one where we really have to see how it shakes out. And they can't mess this one up. We talked about the MJF and the Adam Cole thing and how they could go in a whole bunch of different directions, and we'll see. I think it's gonna not be too great, but this one they can't mess up.
And you got the Elite story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
they were going to take over AEW. So this time, this is like a takeover. This has to work.
You know what? It's interesting because somebody pointed out to me that one of the big failures of the Elite story is if somebody's going to take over, they have to come in from the outside. Heidi taking over from the inside, that kind of doesn't make sense. And I thought about that and I said, yeah, that's a good point, right? Like the NWO came from the outside and wanted to take over, right? And that's why it worked. But these guys are already there. Okay, well, we're taking over now. Okay, like, what is this? Is this Succession or is this wrestling? You know what I mean? So and this is a problem here too. So I know obviously there are some obvious ways that this can go where it's going to be outside people, but that's why I'm saying they really got to deliver on that.
Jason, what do you think?
The match went pretty much the way I thought it would. I was surprised that Danielson passed out from the choke. I thought there would be some outside interference to cause him to lose. Where I said where I mentioned the referee did a very good job was at the very end of it, because Danielson was out. He had to call the match, and he actually sold it of, I don't want to do this, but he rang the bell anyway, because Danielson was passed out. The only thing I thought was a slim possibility that we might get being in Washington, and was a possible Darby turn if they were trying to do an NWO-ish type storyline. I didn't think it was a big chance. I thought it was a slim chance. And everybody keeps waiting on Shane McMahon to come in too, and we don't know if that's going to happen or not.
No.
But going back to the Darby-Brody handshake, Moxley had told Private Party a couple of weeks back they were in the same spot they were in 5 years ago when they started. Then you had Jerry Lynn come out and tell Orange Cassidy, I forgot what show it was on. I don't know if it was Dynamite or if it was the pay-per-view or what, but telling Orange Cassidy that he was the man and it was time for him to step up and be the man. Mm-hmm. And when those people came out to save Bryan Danielson, it was all the young guys. It was Darby. It was Orange. It was Private Party. So if they do this correctly, and they you can even have Brody coming out, because Brody was never in a big federation or promotion before he got here. And it's been well documented that Malachi Black, they want him back in WWE and WWE wants him back. So I don't know how long his contract is there for. But if they do it correctly, this will be a great way, with or without Shane McMahon coming in, to elevate the young guys in this storyline. And at some point, Wheeler turned, but he was selling the fact that he didn't want to do it, that he was kind of going against his will, against his better judgment, against what he felt in his heart he should do, but he did it anyway. So at some point, Wheeler's going to turn back as well. So if you get the young guys coming up, and if Kenny comes back, I'm not sure what his health status is, and they're still trying to take over the company, you can put the Elite back together and have Okada with them if you want or not, to have that feud as well. But I think it's a great way to either bring the Elite back together or elevate the young guys, or a combination of both. And if Danielson will come back at some point. If he has his neck surgery, it'll be, a little later than what people are wanting. If he holds off on the surgery a little bit, it'll be a lot quicker than what people are expecting. Only thing I'll disagree with Hammer on is I'm glad he worded the stuff the way he did, that he's retiring from full-time in ring competition, because nobody ever really retires. So, he's not saying I'm done. He says I'm done full-time. You'll still see me sporadically. So I like the wording the way he did it for that simple fact. But, if they tell the story correctly, there's a lot of stories that can be told coming out of that match alone.
Yep. It's a big if.
No, I agree.
Can I throw one really, really out there thing at you?
Sure.
Remember the higher powers? Everybody remembers the higher power story in WWE.
It was me all along.
That's right. But do you remember who it was supposed to be at the very beginning?
It was supposed to be Christopher Daniels.
One of the first ideas?
Christopher Daniels.
Correct.
Really?
The fallen angel.
I'm just going to leave that out there. Can you imagine if Tony says, yeah, why don't we finish that story?
Oh, yeah.
I would be impressed. I would clap if they did that. And if Christopher Daniels was the guy, it's like it's me, Tony. I'd love that. I would mark out and I'd forgive Tony a lot of things.
I hadn't even thought about it. That's an interesting scenario.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up the podcast for this week, just want to go around and get your guys to grade this pay-per-view out of 10. Connor, what would you rate this out of 10?
I'd give it a 7 out of 10. That was better than some of the pay-per-views this year, like Double or Nothing and a few others. Yeah, I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
All right. Aimer, what do you get out of 10?
Yeah, I'm thinking in the range of about a 7 or a 7.5. Not all the matches were for me, but you know what? It was for the crowd and it was for the AEW audience, and it did what it needed to. It gave them what they wanted, and the crowd loved most of the matches. So can't argue with that.
Right, Jason.
I'm right there with him. I'll give it a 7.
7.
What takes off for me is just simply a couple of matches that didn't need to be there. Jericho in the semi-main event I thought was absurd, but that's just me. And the length.
Oh, yeah.
But the length of it, really takes away from me sometimes.
Yeah. I would give it a 7.5. I did enjoy it, but I get all your points. It gets a bit long. Maybe a couple of matches didn't need to be there. A couple of things kind of thrown in just for entertainment purposes. But overall, I think it was still a quality pay-per-view. And I think overall pay-per-views have been better these years as opposed to what we were used to back in the 90s or even the 2000s for a while. So, no, it was good. So, again, it was great to be back. It was really good to see you guys, Connor, Aimer, Jason. It was a pleasure to have another week with you guys, and looking forward to the next time that we meet. And, thanks very much to everyone joining in. And Connor, I guess before we go, is there anything that you wanted to mention? What's going on with AEZ or AEZ at all before we sign off for tonight?
Yeah, I saw someone ask. We addressed this on our Jason addressed it on AEZ Daily, and I addressed it on our Dynamite Live reaction. But Adam is no longer with the All Elite Zone. Nothing happened. He has some personal stuff going on in his life, so he took a step back. We talked about what we're going to do with Talking Elite. I think we're going to take a break from Talking Elite. Not to say it never could come back, but we're going to start our brand new show called WrestleZone Unfiltered, which will be hosted by Jason. We have graphics being made for it. That'll be done really, really soon. I expect it to be done in the coming day, probably. And then we'll have a date out on our social media accounts, and we'll go from there. But not to say Talking Elite could never return. We just felt like it was best to, like, we had one host. He went, Adam's gone. So we probably need to do something different, because now it's not the vision that it was intended to be. But Adam, like, the door's always open for Adam to return. I'm sure he will return one day. Adam will always be a member of the All Elite Zone. Yeah, besides that, that's pretty much it. I do want to show some of these comments. Johnson Wayne, thanks for watching. AZ Canada's back.
Always appreciate the comments.
Nathaniel, thanks for watching. I wanted to face Jack Perry next. To me, where's Adam just at? That was in March. Ricochet and JD. Like that was Ricochet's best match before leaving. I thought. March. I'm not sure which one, but I think it was the episode that The Rock beat up Cody outside when it was raining. Whatever episode that was when that match happened. Ricochet and JD McDuggan. It was a very good match, I thought. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching.
And you know what, Adam's always going to be missed. He was my co-host for most of the weeks for quite a while, so always a great guy, and hopefully he'll be able to hop back on every once in a while, even to be a guest. That'd be great. But again, I think thanks, you guys. It was great conversation, and there's always lots of wrestling to talk about. And looking forward to potentially next week again, same time, same channel. And thanks for everyone tuning in. And, again, tell your friends and family, like and subscribe if you haven't. And thanks again, and have a great week and enjoy the wrestling. And we'll see you next week.